I never thought I would be writing this post, but here I am. I need to get this off my chest as my whole world has turned upside down in the last few weeks. I am still trying to process everything that has happened and figure out what to do next. Some background information first. I have been married to my wife Monica for 17 years. We met during our final year of college when we were both studying business administration. Monica was the most beautiful girl in our class. Everyone wanted to date her, but she chose me, a simple guy from a middle-class family. We dated for 2 years before getting married right after graduation. Our families were against the marriage, saying we were too young and needed to focus on our careers first. But we were madly in love and convinced we could handle anything life threw at us. The first few years of marriage were tough. We both worked entry-level jobs trying to make ends meet. We lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment and could barely afford groceries some months. Despite the financial struggles, we were happy. Monica was always optimistic and kept saying things would get better soon. Then came the biggest surprise of our lives. Monica was pregnant. We hadn't planned for a baby so soon, but were excited about becoming parents. However, the timing couldn't have been worse. Monica had just lost her job due to company downsizing, and I was barely making enough to cover our basic expenses. This was when I got lucky and landed a job at Anderson & Partners, one of the top consulting firms in our city. My boss Peter personally hired me after a grueling interview process. He saw potential in me despite my lack of experience and took me under his wing. The salary was much better than my previous job and helped us prepare for the baby's arrival. Harold was born in winter of 2008. He was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen. Monica had a difficult pregnancy and delivery, so we decided she would stay home with Harold while I focused on building my career. Peter was very understanding and helped me learn everything about the consulting business. He would often work late with me, teaching me the tricks of the trade. Monica would sometimes bring Harold to office to have lunch with me. Everyone loved having them around, especially Peter. He would always make time to play with Harold and bring him small gifts. His wife Linda couldn't have children due to some medical issues, so he treated Harold like the son he never had. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was to what was really happening. Over the years, I worked hard and climbed the corporate ladder. We moved to a better neighborhood, bought a nice house, and could finally afford family vacations. Peter and Linda became close friends. We would spend holidays together, go on couple trips, and our families became inseparable. They even helped us financially when we were renovating our house. Monica was the perfect wife and mother. She took care of everything at home while I focused on work. She was active in Harold's school activities, hosted dinner parties for my colleagues, and everyone admired how well she managed everything. Peter would often comment on how lucky I was to have such a wonderful wife. The changes started about 6 months ago. Monica began acting differently. She started dressing up more even when staying at home. She got a new phone and would get very protective about it. If I came near her while she was texting, she would quickly lock the screen or turn it face down. When I asked about it, she said I was being paranoid and needed to trust her more. She also started showing more interest in my work schedule, especially my business trips. She would ask detailed questions about when I would leave and return. Whenever I had to travel, she would insist on not disturbing her in the evenings as she would be busy with her book club meetings or helping Harold with school projects. Last month, I had to go to Chicago for a week-long conference. 2 days into the trip, most of the meetings got canceled as the main client had a family emergency. I decided to return home early and surprise Monica. I didn't tell her I was coming back as I wanted to see her genuine reaction. I reached home around 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. The lights were on and I could hear music playing inside. I used my key to enter quietly, thinking I would surprise Monica in the kitchen where she usually prepared dinner at this time. But the kitchen was empty. I heard noises coming from upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, I started hearing voices from our bedroom. I recognized Monica's laugh, but there was also a man's voice. My heart started racing as I approached the door. What I saw when I opened it will haunt me forever. Monica was in bed with Peter. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't notice me at first. When Monica finally saw me standing in the doorway, she screamed and tried to cover herself. Peter jumped out of bed and started grabbing his clothes. I stood there frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My wife and my boss, the two people I trusted most in my life, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Monica started crying and begging me to let her explain. She kept saying it wasn't what it looked like. Peter didn't say anything. He just got dressed and walked past me like I wasn't even there. I heard his car start and drive away as Monica continued crying and pleading with me. That night, after hours of crying and screaming, Monica finally told me everything. The affair had started just months after I joined the company. What began as innocent flirting during office parties turned into secret meetings and hotel rendezvous. They had been seeing each other behind my back for almost my entire career at the company. But the worst was yet to come. Through her tears, Monica confessed that Harold wasn't my biological son. She had gotten pregnant early in her affair with Peter but decided to pass the baby off as mine to avoid any scandal. She said she had wanted to tell me many times over the years but couldn't bear to hurt me. Everything made sense now, why Peter had always been so interested in Harold's life, Why he treated him specially compared to other employees' children. Why Harold had Peter's blue eyes while Monica and I both had brown eyes. I had never questioned it because the possibility of such betrayal had never crossed my mind. I kicked Monica out that night. I couldn't stand looking at her face or listening to her excuses anymore. She kept trying to convince me that despite everything, she did love me in her own way. But how can you say you love someone after lying to them for 15 years about their own child? The next day, I went to office early. I knew Peter would try to damage control the situation, so I beat him to it. I called an impromptu meeting with the entire department and exposed their affair in front of everyone. I also told Linda, who had just arrived for a breakfast meeting with Peter. The look of shock and pain on her face made me realize she had no idea about any of this. Peter tried to play it cool at first, saying I was making false accusations out of jealousy over his success. But when Linda confronted him about specific dates and incidents, he couldn't keep up the lies anymore. He got angry and threatened to fire me for creating a hostile work environment. Linda left the office in tears while everyone watched in shocked silence. The hardest part was telling Harold. I sat him down after school and tried to explain everything as gently as possible. To my surprise, he wasn't shocked at all. He told me he had known for about 2 years that I wasn't his biological father. He had overheard Monica talking to someone on phone about keeping the truth from me. He had done some research on genetics after that and realized that it was impossible for 2 brown-eyed parents to have a blue-eyed child. Harold said he never brought it up because he was afraid of losing me. He told me that regardless of biology, I was his real father, the one who had taught him to ride a bike, helped him with homework, coached his baseball team, and been there for every important moment of his life. He said he didn't want to have anything to do with Peter or Monica and wanted to continue living with me. Now I am stuck in this impossible situation. Monica wants Harold to build a relationship with his biological father. Peter is suddenly acting like he has rights over my son and is threatening legal action. Harold is refusing to see either of them and gets angry whenever I bring up the subject. I love Harold like my own flesh and blood, but I don't want to be the reason he misses out on having a relationship with his biological father. I need advice on how to handle this situation. Should I force Harold to meet Peter? Should I fight for custody or step aside since I am not his real father? Am I being selfish in wanting to keep Harold with me? Any suggestions would be appreciated. Edit. Thank you everyone for your support and advice. Many of you asked about the DNA test. Yes, I got it done immediately after Monica's confession and it confirmed that Harold is not my biological son. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since my original post. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and messages. The situation has gotten more complicated, and I need to get this off my chest. Monica moved back to her parents' house the day after I kicked her out. Her parents called me multiple times trying to convince me to give her another chance. They kept saying that marriages go through rough patches and that I should think about Harold's future. When I told them about the 15-year affair and Harold's real father, they went quiet. Apparently, Monica had told them I was being unreasonable about a recent minor indiscretion. Last week, I received a letter from Monica's lawyer. She is filing for divorce and wants full custody of Harold. Her lawyer claims that since I am not Harold's biological father, I have no legal rights over him. They are arguing that I am emotionally manipulating Harold and turning him against his mother and real father. The letter also mentioned that Peter is willing to take full financial responsibility for Harold's upbringing and education. I immediately hired Karen, a lawyer who specializes in family law. She was recommended by a colleague who went through a similar situation. Karen says we have a strong case because I am listed as the father on Harold's birth certificate and have been acting as his father for 15 years. She also said that at Harold's age, the court will consider his preferences regarding custody. The situation at work has become unbearable. Peter tried to fire me claiming poor performance, but HR intervened. They said firing me right after I exposed the affair would look like retaliation and could lead to a lawsuit. Instead, they moved me to a different department on the other side of the building. Most of my colleagues are supportive, but office politics have made things awkward. Some people who used to be friendly now avoid me in the hallways or stop talking when I enter the break room. I overheard someone saying I should have handled things privately instead of creating drama at work. But how was I supposed to stay quiet about such betrayal? Linda, Peter's wife, filed for divorce last week. She hired a private investigator who discovered that Peter had multiple affairs over the years. Monica wasn't his first or only mistress. Linda came to see me and apologized for not believing me years ago when I mentioned Peter's inappropriate behavior with female employees. She had noticed signs, but Peter always managed to convince her she was being paranoid. The most shocking development came when Monica's sister Rachel reached out to me. Rachel and I were never close as she lives in another state, but she felt I needed to know the whole truth. She revealed that Monica and Peter had been planning to leave their spouses and start a new life together. They were waiting for Harold to turn 18 before making their relationship public. Rachel showed me screenshots of conversations between her and Monica from the past few years. Monica had been confiding in her sister about the affair. She would complain about how tired she was of living a double life and how Peter kept promising to leave Linda but never did. In one message, Monica wrote that she only stayed with me because I provided financial stability while Peter provided the excitement she craved. What made my blood boil was discovering their financial deception. Rachel revealed that Monica had been transferring money from our joint account to a secret account for years. Every month, she would move $500,1000 claiming it was for Harold's college fund. But actually, she used that money to fund her lifestyle with Peter, expensive hotels, gifts, weekend getaways disguised as business trips. When I confronted Monica about this, her response made me sick. She blamed me for being too focused on work and not giving her enough attention. She said Peter understood her emotional needs better and made her feel special. According to her, I should be grateful that she stayed with me all these years instead of leaving with Peter early in their affair. Harold is handling everything better than I expected. His school counselor says he's maintaining his grades and participating in activities normally. But he absolutely refuses to see Peter despite Monica's constant attempts to force a meeting. He deleted Monica's number from his phone after she kept sending him guilt-tripping messages about denying his real father a chance to know him. Last week, Peter showed up at Harold's school during lunch break. He tried to talk to Harold in the parking lot, claiming he had rights as his biological father. Harold called me immediately, and I had to leave an important meeting to handle the situation. When I arrived, Peter was still there, trying to convince Harold to hear him out. I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave immediately. After this incident, Karen suggested we file for a restraining order against Peter. She says his behavior at the school could be considered harassment, especially since Harold has clearly expressed his wish not to have any contact with him. We have a court hearing next week to discuss this. Monica's latest move was to start a smear campaign against me in our social circle. She's telling everyone that I was an emotionally distant husband who neglected her needs, forcing her to seek comfort elsewhere. Some of our mutual friends have taken her side, saying I am being too harsh and should think about reconciliation for Harold's sake. What these people don't understand is that this isn't just about the affair. Monica and Peter didn't just betray my trust, they stole 15 years of my life through their lies. They let me believe I was Harold's father while laughing behind my back. How can anyone expect me to forgive such calculated deception? I am trying to stay strong for Harold, but some days are harder than others. Every happy memory I had of our family now feels tainted. I keep questioning every moment of our marriage, wondering what else was a lie. The only thing keeping me going is Harold's unconditional love and his choice to stay with me despite everything. This whole situation has taught me that blood doesn't make a family, love and loyalty do. I may not be Harold's biological father, but I am the one who has been there for him every day of his life. No court or DNA test can change that fact. Update 2. 2 months have passed since my last update. I never thought the situation could get worse, but it has. The divorce proceedings have turned incredibly ugly. Monica is demanding half of everything, including the house I bought mostly with my inheritance money. Her lawyer argues that since she was a stay-at-home mom for several years after Harold was born, she deserves substantial alimony for sacrificing her career. My lawyer Karen says Monica's affair and financial fraud will significantly impact the divorce settlement. We have solid evidence of her stealing money from our joint account over the years. The total amount she transferred to her secret account exceeds $100,000. When the judge saw the bank statements, he ordered a complete audit of our finances. Last week's custody hearing was intense. Monica came prepared with a whole new narrative about our marriage. She claimed I was an emotionally abusive husband who controlled her every move. According to her testimony, I monitored her spending, isolated her from friends, and made her depend on me financially. She said she stayed in the marriage only because she feared losing Harold. Peter testified in Monica's favor. He claimed he had witnessed me being aggressive at work multiple times, especially towards female colleagues. He painted a picture of me as a dominating person who used my position to intimidate others. I couldn't believe how easily he could lie under oath. Fortunately, several of my colleagues stepped forward to dispute these claims. They testified about Peter's history of inappropriate behavior with female employees and how he often used his position to pressure younger staff members. 3 women from the office also came forward with stories about how Peter had made unwanted advances towards them over the years. The biggest bombshell came from Linda. After filing for divorce, she had hired a private investigator to look into Peter's past affairs. The investigator discovered something none of us expected. Peter and Monica have a secret child together. They had given the baby up for adoption 12 years ago. When this evidence was presented in court, Monica finally broke down. She admitted that she had gotten pregnant during their affair around the time Harold was 3. Peter convinced her to give the baby up for adoption to protect their secret. They worked with a private adoption agency in another state and never told anyone about it. The judge was furious about this deception, especially since Monica had been demanding custody of Harold while hiding the existence of another child. Her credibility was completely destroyed. The revelation also impacted Peter's attempt to claim parental rights over Harold, as it showed a pattern of abandoning his children when it suited him. Harold took the news about his secret sibling very hard. He locked himself in his room for days after finding out. When he finally opened up to me, he said he felt betrayed all over again. Not only had his mother lied about his real father, but she had also hidden the existence of his biological sister or brother. Last week, Harold asked me to help him find his sibling. He said he has a right to know about his biological family history, especially regarding any genetic health conditions. While I understand his curiosity, I'm worried about opening this can of worms. The adopted child might not know they're adopted, or their family might not want any contact. Monica tried to use Harold's interest in finding his sibling as leverage. She offered to share all the information about the adoption if he agreed to spend weekends with her and Peter. Harold refused, saying he would find his sibling through legal channels rather than make deals with people who had lied to him his whole life. The private investigator Linda hired also uncovered financial records showing that Peter had been supporting Monica in more ways than we knew. He had set up a separate company in her name and was channeling money through it, possibly to avoid taxes. This information has now been turned over to the relevant authorities. Karen says all these revelations strengthen our case for both the divorce settlement and custody arrangements. The judge seems inclined to consider Monica's deception and financial fraud when making his final decision. We have another hearing scheduled for next month where the custody arrangement will be finalized. Meanwhile, Harold has started talking about changing his last name to mine legally. He says he doesn't want to have any connection to Peter's family name once the truth about his birth certificate comes out. While I'm touched by this gesture, I told him to take time and think it through carefully. These are big decisions that shouldn't be made in anger. Update 3, it's been 6 months since everything came to light. The dust has finally started to settle. The divorce was finalized last week, and things turned out better than expected. Due to Monica's documented infidelity, financial fraud, and the hidden adoption, she got much less than she demanded. The judge awarded me the house since I had paid for most of it with my inheritance. She only got a portion of our joint savings after returning the money she had stolen over the years. The custody battle ended in my favor as well. The judge granted me primary custody of Harold with Monica getting supervised visitation rights every other weekend. However, Harold still refuses to see her. Peter also got limited visitation rights as the biological father, but Harold maintains his stance of not wanting any relationship with him. I left Anderson and Partners last month. The work environment had become too toxic to handle. Peter tried to make my life difficult by assigning impossible deadlines and criticizing my work in front of clients. Surprisingly, his behavior worked in my favor. 3 major clients who witnessed his unprofessional conduct followed me when I joined Stewart Consulting, a competing firm. My new position pays significantly better and the work environment is much healthier. Monica and Peter moved in together after both their divorces were finalized. They bought a house in the upscale part of town and seem happy together. However, their actions have cost them dearly in terms of relationships. Most of their friends have cut ties with them. Even Monica's parents, who initially supported her, have distanced themselves after learning about the secret adoption. Harold has started seeing a counselor to help him process everything. He's doing much better now and has joined the school basketball team. His grades have improved, and he's talking about college plans. We managed to locate his biological sibling, a girl named Emma living with her adoptive family in Colorado. Her parents were understanding when we reached out and agreed to let Harold and Emma exchange letters. They want to wait until both kids are 18 before allowing any direct contact. Linda has become an unexpected ally throughout this ordeal. She helped us navigate the legal process and even testified against Peter despite his attempts to buy her silence. She recently moved to Florida to start fresh but stays in touch regularly. She treats Harold like a nephew and sends him birthday and Christmas gifts. The financial investigation into Peter's company revealed extensive tax fraud. The authorities are building a case against him. Several former employees have come forward with evidence of his unethical business practices. There's talk that he might face criminal charges. Monica is also implicated in some of these dealings through the shell company he set up in her name. I've started dating again recently, though taking things very slow. Met someone named Amy through a mutual friend. She's divorced too and understands the importance of putting kids first. Harold seems comfortable around her, which is a good sign. But I'm not rushing into anything serious. My priority remains helping Harold navigate this challenging phase of his life. Some people still ask why I chose to keep fighting for custody of a child who isn't biologically mine. They don't understand that being a father isn't about DNA. It's about being there every day, sharing both joy and pain, and putting your child's needs before your own. Harold is my son in every way that matters. Looking back at these 6 months, I realized that while the truth hurt terribly, it also set us free from living a lie. Harold and I are building a stronger relationship based on honesty and trust. We're not just surviving this crisis, we're growing stronger through it. The road ahead might not be easy, but we'll face it together as father and son. This will be my last update. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and encouragement helped me stay strong when things got tough.